If someone told me I'd be spending my entire morning being dragged around half of downtown Luxburn looking for furniture, I probably would have simply smiled at them. Then perhaps even given them a good friendly pat on the shoulder and wished them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, this is most definitely a nice change of pace after weeks of getting bogged down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside my apartment whenever I can. If only the weather would be a whole lot nicer, the kind with less sun and more clouds perhaps. With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us as high noon approaches, I could see why Mr. Wright skipped out on this trip. The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Miss Wright in a less somber mood. After the 5th store, oh god, her pace is considerably livelier, her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the mansion earlier. The presence of another person might have helped as well. Although Miss McCulloch seems less predisposed to small talk, preferring to keep to herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us wherever. She did acknowledge me with a small nod when we were introduced earlier, but that didn't make standing outside the store together any less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside. But hey, we're probably of a height though, right? Huh?
So, interior design, huh?
It worked for Isabella. She cast me a sidelong glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper in quick successive strokes. Well, that was a dud. There goes that. I did say I'm not any good at starting or keeping conversations going, didn't I? She doesn't look back up again, and I take that as my cue to stop any attempt of striking a dialogue with her and keep myself occupied with some other thing. Except what we have here is just Luxburn and its busy streets, people going about their day like normal, cars moving in and out of sight heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable, really. The ease with which a person can fade into the background here is reflective of the kind of city Luxburn will always be, but the humdrum's one thing I learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay that way. There are times when it would come alive, make itself known, and reassert itself back into the world. However, those moments are few and far in between. Then again, with what graces the news channels lately, I'm starting to think it's going to happen sooner. Can't say I'm looking forward to what it'll bring.
Luxury living, is it?
Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts just as I count the 13th passerby wearing a hat today. Beside me, I can hear the faint rustling of paper and the clicking of her pen as she stashes them back to her bag.
Excuse me, what?
The magazine you're working for. It's Luxury Living, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You've been featured by them before, I take it?
A few years back, yes. For just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, though not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right?
It may not show in her face, but the pride is evident in her voice.
Good folks, the people running the publication. Tell me, is DK still on the editorial team?
I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know.
Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him, actually, even if we both came from two different fields.
Well, if you want to talk art, then I think this is going to be a comfortable conversation.
I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while. Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this.
I wouldn't say I am, but experience, you know? The more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade. That kind of stuff.
I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with the competition. Each year, a new talent emerges, and, well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices. Believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this?
I think so. Depends on how big the project is.
She reaches into her bag again. Marianne McCulloch, yeah, her card. This time to pull out a business card, which she hands over to May.
When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris. He's my assistant.
No kidding.
He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better.
Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in. But, alright, I'll give it a go once.
Marianne, could you look this over for me?
At that very moment, Miss Wright emerges from the store. When I look back to Miss McCulloch, a mask of professionalism has returned to her. Or at least that is what it is trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes as she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that would be too presumptuous. You know, I was wondering about that. Because when Hannah said that for this furniture shopping thing, it's a date, and McCulloch was like, well, I wouldn't call it that. Like, I was wondering about that. Whatever it is doesn't last, and is briskly swept under the firm tone her voice assumes.
Definitely. Is there a problem?
They said they don't have the colors you suggested. Do you think we can change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want, and you know I'd rather not worry about this later.
I think it'd be better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me.
She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Miss Wright lets out a giggle and swipes the business card cleanly off my hand. She smiles, a bemused little thing spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'll do that more often, the smiling thing. It suits her more than the other one she frequently shows to the media.
I look away, and the next thing I know, you're picking up women. On the streets, while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appalled or amazed. Whatever happened to the Zach I met a day ago? About as tall as you. Photographer. Quite the gentleman. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone.
It ain't like that, Miss Wright. And I'm sure Miss McCullough's not the kind of woman to let herself be picked up by strangers, let alone people she barely knows.
Oh, shush. Let me have my fun. And didn't I say you can call me Hannah?
She gives the card back to me nevertheless, and with it, her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful, as she looks back toward the shop's display window. There is all sorts of love geometrical shapes going on here. So we have Ash and Isabella possibly, but Becca loves Ash, and Ash doesn't seem to notice. We have Hannah probably liking me, McCulloch possibly liking Hannah, Zach, I don't know if he's in love with anybody. There's spiderwebs of love connections going on here. There's nothing remotely interesting in it for me when I follow a line of sight, though. A few trinkets here and there, a fur rug, a sofa, a wooden side table, and a lamp, all tastefully picked and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. On second thought, it does look comfortable. But why they added a crib beside it baffles me. Unless, of course, the people they're hoping to market to are those who already have children, or about to have one. Then maybe it is fitting. Peculiar choice of decorations aside, it does make for a nice icebreaker if it's not on the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. It still leagues better than the awkward silence, which is definitely too out of character for a personality like Miss Hannah's. Do you think a crib would make a good gift? Probably looks cute because she's not seeing it as a gift, I don't think.
Oh, I think that one looks cute.
Hannah balks to my surprise, shuffling 2 steps away from the window and glares at it with such vehemence as if it did something remotely scandalous. Hey! A funny sight when taken out of context, and I probably will be laughing, really, if I understand what warranted such a reaction from her.
I wasn't looking at the crib.
I wasn't really talking about the crib, Hannah.
Very good then. But it wasn't the crib, all right.
Alright, I get you. But that's not it. Honest. I was just saying the stuff that was on display there looks nice. Or at least as nice that it can be compared to the ones we visited earlier. But I'm sure your interior designer has something different in mind for your mansion, so don't mind me.
I was hoping that would be enough to cut the topic short. Instead, she sighs, leans on the wall closest to her, and runs her hands through a lock of her hair. There is a far-flung look in her eyes, even as she fixes it on the concrete curb.
You need to stop looking at people like that, sweetie.
I'm afraid I don't quite catch your drift, ma'am.
I suppose you wouldn't be aware of it. Do you know you always carry this kind of phase? Like you're always staring at the world with this honest look. Like all there is to see is all the good in it.
Frankly, I don't see anything wrong if it's like that. I mean, there always has to be something in it. You know, a sprinkle of kindness here and there. Otherwise, we'd all be miserable.
For you, maybe. Some people have to fight through it just to see that. And kindness isn't always a great thing to have around. Sometimes too much of it can hurt.
It makes you wonder where this is coming from. How bad things have really gone for her to have this view. I do understand her sentiment. Really, I do. Still, when it's the last thing you can cling to when things have gone irreversibly bad, sometimes you simply don't get to make a choice.
Besides, the point is, it's impossible to lie when a person is looking at you like that. Or I could, but I'd feel like a horrible person afterwards. Did you hear that, Mr. Zach? You just made me feel like a horrible person.
Oh, wait. Only if you lied to me, though, huh?
I sort of wish I had one like it. Just so people would stop lying to my face.
Or you can start by being honest with yourself. It shouldn't be quite hard. Friends don't lie to each other, don't they?
I guess so.
So what was the lie?
She draws in a breath, lays a soothing hand to her stomach, and...
That it was really the crib I was looking at earlier, silly.
there you go.
You're right, Uncle Zach. It's cute, but the pattern's not to my taste. I'm pretty sure Marianne could do something about that, though. At the moment, what I should really be worried about is if I'm ever going to be a good mother to this child. Ned, I can't even tell the father he's going to be one in a few months' time. Probably doesn't even want anything to do with this whole pregnancy thing. What am I going to do, Zach? Because right now, I'm absolutely at a loss.
Well, she said it out loud correctly. And wait, if she's pregnant, then that pregnant wife line was... I thought it was a jab about Rochelle, but is it actually herself?
Oh.
A beat.
Oh!
The realization strikes me like a ton of bricks suddenly bearing down on me. More than astonishment must have shown in my face, because Hannah lets out a chuckle. The slump on her shoulders disappears altogether underneath her mirth.
Don't look so surprised, dearie. Tied the knot 7 years ago, remember? Don't you think it's bound to happen?
She brandishes her hand in front of me, the unassuming silver band on her finger glinting against the late morning sunlight for a second. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the trace of sadness in her voice. For all I know, there is an entire story there. I'd ask, but that would be too inappropriate, even for friends. It's not my place to meddle to begin with.
Or at least that's what they've been saying early on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming.
But the kid is something you want, right? Because if it ain't, then that's a whole other problem.
Of course. I wouldn't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here, all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about. Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model. I practically grew up with nursemaids pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well? Oh, I can already see how this will end.
Huh. I guess it's not just my sister.
What?
You and my sister. I mean, you're both having jitters or something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters? Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then. He even called me in the middle of the night. Has to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is.
I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet.
Oh, you don't know that? My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. Since she's one cranky pregnant lady. Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before that bundle of joy arrived, huh?
It can't be that awful.
Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Right to decide, yeah?
Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up.
Then maybe you should say it to his face. No mincing of words or beating around the bushes.
And if he says no?
You haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men? I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course. But there ought to be something that will hit him in that idea alone.
A wrecking ball would be nice.
Laughter escapes me before I can stop it, and for a moment I thought I have done something wrong which she didn't join in. Had. She's still her husband's, no matter what jests or complaints she hurls about him behind the media's eyes, or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does, her chuckle, a small hesitant sound at first, I find the rest of my unease slipping away.
Well, whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen. In the same way, you don't know if you'll be a good mom. Trust me, my sister's been there. It's perfectly normal. If, my opinion matters, though.
A long second of indecision goes by. I can feel her eyes filled with nothing but curiosity, boring into me while she waits for the rest. It's just a simple sentiment, but one thing I think she needs to hear for all the doubt she unwittingly places on herself. I'm just not sure if it should come from me. I'll be damned.
I think you'll be a great mother, Hannah.
If she has an answer to that, I don't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it's out of my mouth, the bell hanging over the antique store's door chimes, and out comes Miss McCullough. For more than one reason, I have never been so relieved our talk got interrupted.
Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. You'll have everything you requested delivered early. I've left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check for a few things. I hope that's acceptable to you.
More than Marianne. This is a little early to say, but you did marvelous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow.
I'm only doing my job, ma'am. Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work.
Nonsense! You have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still make sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes. I'll see if I can introduce you to them tomorrow.
I really don't want to impose, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself.
You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur le Photographe. You better be the one taking the pictures for the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset.
I blink at her, confused. Last I checked, I have nothing scheduled on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects, but with the expectant expression on Hannah's face alone, I wondered before how they got Isabella to sell in the mansion, with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well, now the how is already standing in front of me, and it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. If I have any doubts how she got around life, all of them have been dispelled right this instant. Hannah hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be.
What event?
Our housewarming party, dearie. I've already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now.
Okay, so this was before the drunk fiasco then, because we know that Zachary will end up being there. He's called over by Becca.
I may have probably missed it. I haven't gotten the chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real-life happenings, they can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet.
That's not a problem. Nothing a little call from me can't fix. I'll have them know I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you'll show up. I expect to see you both there. No excuses.
Good company, good music, good food. Of course I'll be there.
Okay, and this will conclude with them doing the twist outside.
Lovely. I hope we have that settled then. I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this. You two will have to excuse me.
Are you feeling fine, ma'am?
It's nothing big.
There's a short while in which her hand faintly touches her stomach when she says this. Her smile as she does so, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid is already loved even when he or she has yet to receive a sense of the world. Candid moments like this, I wish I had brought a camera for.
Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but, well, you two know how it goes.
It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well.
Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way.
No, please. There's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city.
I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion. Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later.
Nah, I live within the city too. A few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because...
Yeah, the whole point. The photos. Damn, I have completely forgotten about them. My hand grazes the side of my pocket where I've kept them since this morning. And sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see them.
Because? Zach, sweetie, you're zoning out.
Miss Hannah, earlier, at the mansion.
Should I still show her the photos? Huh. Let's do it.
I think it would be better if you take a look at these yourself.
Nah, I was afraid of that. Seeing is believing, right? I reach into my pocket and pull out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and I have to stamp down the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having the gall to show it to her. Only it cuts deeper the instant both her and Miss McCulloch's expression changes. And it's not a good look. To say she's repulsed would be a total understatement. All this time, Hannah has been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour and the camera lenses, she's a whole different person. But as she goes through each of the pictures, I can't get an easy read on her.
Zach, dearie, what is this?
Your photos. The ones you requested copies of. I mean, they came out that way, and I thought you should know.
Oh, I get it. You know, I've heard before that artists can be a bit weird. Have you ever gotten that kind of comment, Marianne?
Not in my line of work, I'm afraid. Or ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual work. Less stress that way.
Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, that's... You see, when we had that photo shoot yesterday, there was something.
I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible for you to give me normal-looking ones? Preferably with my head intact.
Are we gonna get to explain this or what?
I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic. Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home. So please.
She drops them back in my hands like the very surface burned hers.
If you could redo this, that would be wonderful. I'm positive you can do a better job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum,
Yeah. I can, sure.
Okay, well, we just chose to blow that one ourselves, I guess.
You can take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go.
She leaves without so much as a wave. I don't have to take a guess to know I've dismayed her, or in her own words, weirded her out. Beside me, Miss McCulloch shakes her head. What are the odds I've also ruined my chances with the job she offered earlier? Oof. I'm wondering if I should just outright reload. Maybe let's just never mind it. She should know. I really should tell her. Yay. Yet.
Zachary, what is it?
When I look at her, all I see is a woman who only wants the best for the family she's trying to build. I see those loving smiles on her face whenever she puts her hand over her belly, the fond tones in her voice every time she thinks about what will be in months' time. I bet she bought that mansion for the same reason. To fill its many rooms with the smiles and laughter of their children, to create memories from it, unlike the lonely one she had as a child. And I can't bring myself to shatter that little wish. What other proof do I have except for what might be taken as a couple of badly developed photos? No matter where you look at it, this is ridiculous. Maybe I am seeing things. I need to visit my doctor again as soon as possible. I'm not really happy with either decision, and I'm wondering if the negative relationship would come back in a positive way, like, oh, those photos, but I don't know.
About the photos you requested.
Oh, are they done?
No, actually, they're not done yet. I had to finish the ones for the magazine first. I really don't want to rush it.
Please don't tell me you came all the way to Anslim just to tell me that.
I made you a promise.
Oh, you poor thing. I won't hold it against you if you can't give it to me soon. I'm not rushing you, dear. Good art takes time, yes. I'm more concerned about the quality than how fast it gets delivered. With it, I'm sure I'll get my money's worth.
You really don't have to pay for it, Hannah.
Shush you. Don't sell yourself short. You keep doing that and other people will follow. I'll have my secretary send the first half to your account tonight. No buts.
Behind her, Miss McCulloch merely nods, mouthing at me to take it just as it is. She'd know, of course, being the other person working for the rights. But even if I decline, I'm certain Hannah won't be giving me a choice. She'll do it anyway.
I guess I'll just have to make sure I'll take good photos tomorrow at your party, yeah?
Fair enough. I'd love to discuss it with you, but I'll only get in the way. And I really need to leave now.
Have a good day, then.
You too, sweetie.
She smiles and waves, and then she's gone, leaving me wondering if I've just wasted half of my day worrying for nothing. But the weight of the photos in my pocket is impossible to ignore. Maybe I should have done the foolish thing instead. Miss McCulloch departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something about getting a quick lunch before fetching Baruthiel from Chris. Yeah, I kind of am tempted to go the other way. I'll do the annoying thing. Okay, and she shakes her head. What are the odds I've ruined my odd job opportunity? Very high, I'd say. It's a foolish idea in the first place. She departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something about getting a quick lunch before fetching Beruthiel from Chris. I don't know who or what a Beruthiel is. Mustn't be important for her to be in this kind of hurry. And well, she doesn't seem to be fond of small talks, something we could both agree on. Lunch sounds good, or a walk around the city maybe? But with the sun as high as it is now, nah. After how things with Miss Hannah went, I simply can't muster the appetite for anything at the moment. If I don't do anything with it now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again. And by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash? Rebecca? In all likelihood, all they'll give me is a pat in the back and a Z-Man, go get some sleep, you're at it again, from Ash. I talked to Isabella, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up at my apartment 2 days ago. Weird. There is one person, though.
Damn, I should have thought of that first.
As it turns out, I do have another choice. But we'll find out all about that later. For now, it is time to stop the installment. Well, we certainly made a lot of progress today, didn't we? We intended to go and show Hannah the photos, and then we did, and then I backed out, and then we didn't, and then we backed out, and then we did. It doesn't look like anything good came from showing her the photos, and we lost relationship status, but I hope that there's going to be payoff to that later. At least she's seen them. Maybe we could get a better explanation later. Because it does seem too easy to just min-max this game's relationship status by saving before you make any decision. But I get the feeling that won't necessarily get you the best ending because the game developers have to know that anybody could do that, right? So anyway, we had an unpleasant talk with Luke. We had a pleasant shopping spree, I guess, with Hannah and Miss McCulloch. We showed her the pictures, which put a damper on things. That was awkward. But you know what? We're inevitably going to go to our house party and do the twist after seeing a far more unpleasant conversation with Luke and Rochelle. We'll get there later. But I guess we'll deal with it when we come to it. Until next time, everyone.